What's going on, everybody? I'm Damien.
And I'm Ashley.
And welcome back to another episode of Casually Die Hard. This podcast is already off the rails, and I'm loving it. We're here with Alex and Mark. They are the leaders of Wayward Raven Media, an independent comic book publishing company, and children's authors as well. Guys, how the hell are you tonight?
We're fucking awesome.
I love how you said that after you introduced us as children's authors. That's the best part.
At least he didn't call us gentlemen.
That is true. That is true. I deny all claims to the fact.
I've never been a gentleman. I am a man, and that is about it. There's nothing gentle about me. We appreciate you guys coming on. It's we met you guys at Rhode Island Comic Con, and we really liked your guys' stuff. The sales pitch you guys had was very on point and amazing. And we love the concept so much. We had to have you on so we could talk about it more in long form. And my first question is going to be nothing related to that, and just how did you guys get started with being comic book fans, and your love of comics?
As fans, I mean, myself personally, I grew up reading, Spider-Man and later on it started to get into the X-Men and stuff like that. But, probably a little bit of DC, but mainly Spider-Man. And actually, I'll throw it over to Alex because I know that's another of his favorites too. And I think that's kind of why we get along so well, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of overlap there. Like I grew up in Queens. So for me, like Spider-Man was my hometown hero, basically. It's like,
fair enough.
Watching the movies, I'm like, oh, I recognize that block. I know they legit did that. I used to hang out there. So, but even like just from seeing the books, like when Stan Lee said New York was a world outside your window, it was like, for me, yeah, like I grew up a Marvel kid because of that. Trading the Marvel cards back in the day too. But for me, it was a combination of the comics and cartoons that really got me into a lot of that stuff. So,
and I think to kind of piggyback off of some of that, when you talk about being a Marvel kid, like I loved that when I was growing up, Marvel's heroes had flaws,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like I love the image of Superman. I mean, I've got, T-shirts with the S on it and stuff like that. And it's cool as kind of a brand, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like even Batman, a lot of times when we were kids in comics was kind of, hey, I'm just doing the right thing. Whereas like, Peter Parker would fuck up repeatedly, right? I mean, it all come out all right in the end, but a lot of that had to do with who he was as a person, as opposed to,
Yeah, plus growing up too, it's like a lot of the social commentary and my exposure to the world came from comic books. It's like that's how I found out about like the civil rights movement or like things that just like were going out in the world because Marvel was talking about that stuff. I mean, to give them credit, DC was doing some of that stuff too, but they would like, place it in like a different world or a different planet. Whereas, in Marvel, you'd have like characters like, yeah, I may be a superhero, but I don't like the way you're treating me because of the color of my skin or because of how I was born. And like that was something that resonated to me growing up,
That's actually really awesome. And I hate to do this. I have to pause really quick. Our dog is whining. So give me one. Okay, so now we're back. I'm going to do like 3, 2, 1, and then just be like, and now we have our mascot. So 3, 2, 1. Sorry for that little jump cut there that you guys just experienced. We had a whining Chihuahua who is the producer of this podcast, and his name is Bonsai.
Our little boy.
Hi, Bonsai.
But
my
to
master
piggyback,
had locked me outside again.
well,
you will rue the day.
We have another dog sitting on the outside of the door that we just got literally a week ago. When this airs.
Yeah.
So it's like we got her technically 3 days ago, but
her name is what again?
Her name's Gracie.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought I heard something different.
Yeah, no. So she's like waiting on the other side of the door, and he and her would have probably been barking up a storm had they not been separated. But to piggyback on what we were just talking about with like Marvel being more grounded, I think for me, that's where the Marvel disconnection happened because I wanted that larger than life, invincible, flawed character where it's like, I'm a huge Batman fan. Actually, our wedding that we have coming up is all Batman and Catwoman themed and everything like that. So with that, it's like, it's really hard because I didn't grow up with Marvel. So as like going back and reading it, it's like, oh, this was way more adult than I ever gave it credit for. Because when I look at it now, it's like, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that, it's very, very bright color, almost like Sam Raimi. I see you point behind you.
I love that.
But it's almost like the Sam Raimi, or not Sam Raimi, the director of the third Batman movie from the 90s. I can't remember.
Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher,
yes.
I always thought it was like that with Marvel, and then like going back and reading it now, it's like, oh no, these characters actually had like shit happening to them. Like it was very crazy to me.
Yeah, whereas like I feel like I always looked at DC where it was like, oh, these are like the adult superheroes, the adult comics, because it's like it looks that way. It's darker. It's more grungy. And then it's like, oh, Marvel's for kids.
It's funny you say that, considering like I subscribe to a lot of like content on Reddit and stuff like that, and they're always showing like stuff from DC from the 70s. It's like the cover is like Superman eating a bunch of cheeseburgers. Like, oh no, I'm compelled to eat all these cheeseburgers. What will I ever do? How will I stop? And it's funny hearing you say that the DC was the adult ones.
Right.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if this will date you guys, but I was born in 94. She was born in 92. So by the time we got it, oh, trust me, the gray's coming in for me too. But
I'm not going to tell you where I was in 94, but we'll just leave it as that's cute.
The funny part is everyone assumes I'm older than Mark, which is even more hilarious about the whole.
I'm sure if you grew out the beard, the connotations would be similar then.
Probably not as much. I definitely just look like I have city miles on my face.
Yeah, so like when we were growing up, that was it. Like DC was the adult comic because they had that big resurgence, especially with The Dark Knight. I think that was Grant Morrison, if I remember correctly.
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. Damn it! I thought I was right.
It's fucking up.
I know I'm fucking up. I don't know authors.
You got one more strike, bro.
I know.
My nerd card's gonna be taken.
Try to flaunt the knowledge you don't have.
I know. If you say it with enough confidence, people believe it.
Apparently not.
There's truth to that, yeah.
But I mean, they did make a real effort around that time because they saw like a lot of things were changing, and that whole. I mean, you're talking about like grunge era and stuff like that, and like a lot of like, we don't give a fuck about anything. And so getting that audience to engage, you needed to kind of make real actual issues. And I mean, for Christ's sakes, they killed Superman, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that'll tell you the absolutely invincible character, the one person that there was, I mean, you always knew he was going to come up on top, right?
Yep.
He died. I mean,
to give DC credit too, it's like even before that with the whole Red Arrow drug addiction thing, so like once they realized, oh, people like these stories, people like kids. Comics aren't always for kids. You can have fun with it. You can have your silly characters, and that's a breath of levity. But the subject matter, comics was always kind of underground. It was grunge. It was punk rock. Like that's how you had the whole comics code thing, was because comics used to get really dark, So it was always that, like, whenever things would get silly, there'd be that resurgence of like, no, we can tell real life stories, whether they're masked by Metropolis or this fantastical thing. There's always that undercurrent of like, hey, this is what real life is, And
I feel like as a writer, that a character that has flaws and has problems, has things to overcome. And has a challenge, and it makes certainly one of them more relatable. And two, I mean, you legitimately don't know if they're going to make it, And certainly there's been a real trend lately to kind of not make it,
It's almost like the Game of Thrones, like storytelling, where it's like, oh, you're going to get really attached to this character,
and then everybody dies.
And it's like, it's almost like, and I don't want to say it's getting cliched now, because now it's like a lot of like TV shows and comics and stuff like that, they're all looking to give you that, oh my god, they killed it. And like when they did that in The Killing Joke, like that is huge, like that, you know, like, or because Killing Joke was Barbara Gordon getting paralyzed. Death in the Family. Death in the Family is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
that
like, one too. No, but you're referencing two big pivotal stories in the DC thing, and don't forget, a lot of the media feeds off each other. Like, yeah, they may have done something like that in the comics back in the 80s, but who was reading those comics? The writers of today. George R. R. Martin, as you mentioned, Game of Thrones. He's a comic book guy. You know, a lot of the stuff he was written comics, obviously, but you know, it's fuels itself. You know.
It's almost like it's really imitation art at this point. Like art imitates like the medium
art
that you
imitates
grew up
life.
with. And so like when you have these issues like racism and stuff like that, like art imitates that, and comic books is the best way to look at it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know. And I think they're doing a good job for the most part, continue today. I mean, you know, you hear a lot of people bitch and moan about it, but like for me, it's like, look, these are real world issues. These are things that people are dealing with. And, you know, we're not going to go back to the 1950s just because that makes you feel comfortable, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes you have to be
happy in those periods.
Like seeing somebody of your own skin color, of your own gender or something along those lines. Like when people talk about like in video games is like the next best thing is like people complain about, oh, I don't want to play a female protagonist. Why? Like, why does that matter to you? Like, I'll play it. As long as the game's good, I don't care what gender, race, whatever I am. But for somebody that, like, I know with you, you're a woman gamer. To have somebody of your gender to play as a protagonist, that probably entices you more to buy it. Like,
oh, absolutely. And I think for me, like growing up as like not only a woman, but like I'm bisexual, and it's like that didn't exist when I was growing up. And so now it's like you can look at a comic book, look at a video game, and like in media there's representation. It's not perfect by any means, but there's so much more, and it's getting continually better and better as time goes on. And it can be life-changing. Like if I was 11 years old and I was like, oh no, people like this do exist. It's not a phase like people are trying to tell me it is. Like that could have changed my life.
It sounds like funny to come from someone like me who's like, you know, presenting like straight white male, but like for me it was pivotal to see like Greek characters, like who weren't in a mythology setting. Like, we had Zeus and Hera and all that stuff, but like gargoyles, having the villain be Xanatos, a Greek immigrant, a child of Greek immigrants, was like, holy crap, that's me. You know, and it sounds stupid to hear about it when like there's people who had more serious representation issues. But even for me, it's like I always challenge people, like name like a Greek character who isn't something divine, you know? Wonder Woman, what should have been, you know, I mean, you know, she's played by an Israeli, cool, but it's like, you know, like Hercules in the Thor movies, he's not Greek. It's like,
no.
So like,
and representation is important.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, like you need to be. It's good to be able to see yourself in the media you consume, because it's momentous. It's life changing, like you said.
For the record, I'm just going to reaffirm something you said before. You were talking about female main characters. I just got Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh my god,
it's awesome. Like it's my new obsession. I just want to play that like every moment. And I mean that's perfect example of lead female character, and she's a badass, and she's fun to play with, you know.
Not only that, but like then you get into like with bisexual woman, which you are, like The Last of Us Part 2. Like that is straight up that, and it's one of the best selling games of the previous generation. Like it's such an important game and stuff like that. And I guess it's kind of like the transition here that I kind of want to get into is like what how did you guys like find yourselves getting into creating comics? Was it
Yeah.
was it something along these lines where it's like, I want to see some more of myself in comic books or something like that, or was it just like having an idea and running with it?
Well, I'll start, and then I'll let Alex talk about the second part, because he'll talk about how he and I started working together. But
Okay.
for myself personally, I've always been a writer. One of the things I love doing, like, I'm the guy who, he'd write the essay an hour before it was due and get an A on it. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
me too.
Absolutely. That was like, oh, okay, I guess I should start doing this now. And so I love doing stuff like that. So I've always loved writing. We have another partner, Josh, who I met at one point, and he's also a writer. So we started, oddly enough, writing stage plays together, and it wasn't the right medium, right? It just wasn't like some of the things we wanted to do, and honestly, like, neither one of us really is an actor. So I hate to say it, but there's that piece that, like, you have to be a bit of an actor or want to be an actor or really do that justice. So, I'm not saying it's an absolute, but I think it really helps. And that's not who either one of us really are. We're writers. And so we recognize that this is not the right medium for the stories we want to do. Heavily into mythology. We've always been big sci-fi and fantasy and that sort of stuff. And not to say Josh is probably a little bit more invested in some of the classics than I am, but I still read that sort of stuff too. So we went, you know what, let's pivot. And we started writing comics. And so we actually wrote the series you see behind me over here, Horsemen. We started writing that. And among some other things, we had written the first, wrote a piece of Signed and whatnot. And eventually we said, well, let's see if we can put these together, put them out. And right about that time, I met Alex. And, Josh and I had already set up for New York Comic Con. We had a table there. We were going to sell some of that sort of stuff. And then about 6 months before, I had met Alex, and we started working together. I'll let him take it from here. But, it all kind of came together nicely, I think.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a quiet child in Queens. Like for me, it's like I'm a little bit like Mark in the sense I was probably more overproductive than like I should have been, and like I was always that kid who would like be doodling in the middle of class, not paying attention to what was going on, but then the teacher would call on them, and I'd have the answer in my back pocket, and I was always just like doodling, sketching, or storytelling. And me and the kids I grew up with, we were always like, we would trade Marvel cards. We talk about comics, cartoons, and stuff like that. A lot of us were probably budding creators in some capacity. And we would like come up with our own comic books during class, do drawings, stories, just a lot of, stuff like that. And eventually even like, when I discovered stuff like D&D, that right there blew my mind. So I was always a bit of a storyteller and a creative. And, but at the same time, growing up in Queens, like there was that like representation of guys like me. I didn't know that we could become artists, and first generation of Americans. So for me, it was just like, you need to get a job and do things like that. So like, like I didn't go to art school. Like, I wanted to, I would have loved it. But for me, it was just like, hey, just get yourself a degree and get a job. So, but I would always doodle. I would always draw. I'd always write stories. I would, and so like I had tried doing something like that, like on the side. I always wanted to be an artist for Marvel or DC, but I'm like, oh, I'll never get there. And then I go to Comic-Con my first year, and I'm like, holy crap! Wait, these people made their own comics? They didn't get employed by Marvel, DC, or Image. They just did it themselves. And I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, okay, I kind of draw better than this person. This person's way better than me, but still, I'm like, oh, wait. That's how this works, So for me, it's like, I tried my hand at doing some indie stuff. It didn't really work out. But then, like, for my day job, I managed to, like to get like a call from this recruiter guy for this media company, and I go in there, and we just happen to be in the same building as DC Comics, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Where am I going to? I walk into Mark's office, and he's got all this DC stuff in his, in there. And we spent the entire job interview talking comics. And then I go to the guy who was supposed to be my boss, and he's got a bunch of Legos and Star Wars stuff. So I spent my entire interview with him talking Legos and Star Wars.
Yes.
You know, end up getting the job, and Mark and I were like, we keep riffing stupid comic book stuff, and it's very reminiscent to like stuff that where I was growing up, where me and my friends, we would just talk smack about whatever cartoons we were watching or TV shows. He finds out I'm an artist. I found out he's a writer. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be at Comic-Con. I'm like, well, me too. Well, maybe I can swing by your table. We can hang out. Oh, cool. Yeah. And as during our lunch break, we start all the ideas we've been just riffing off of, like, hey, we should make this comic. And that's what eventually became Damn Heroes. So by the time NYCC rolls around, Mark's got like 2 floppies on his table, and I have like 10 printouts of single strips of Damn Heroes. Fast forward to like now we have like a bunch of graphic novels, 4 volumes of Damn Heroes, and whatever the hell Mark is pulling out.
I was gonna say, I just saw him get up. I'm like, dang, like just out.
I found these the other day, like because we moved. I found these the other day, dude. We still have like some of these that I printed out initially for that.
Oh, this is awesome.
Like,
shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Collector's edition right there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do like a silent auction for those kinds of things.
Mark has tried to convince me that maybe I should part with some of my original, because like the original pieces were on these huge art boards, where I would just do the handling inks and letters before I went completely digital. But like I might wait till like later in life where it actually might be worth something.
Yeah.
I'll fake my own debt so my art might be worth something. Yeah.
I was gonna say they don't love you until you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might not want to say that too loud. Your wife might get ideas. Hey,
I mean, let her. She knows how to hide a body.
I was gonna say it's like the Married with Children joke. It's like, oh, honey, did you miss me? With every bullet so far.
I think I made that same joke earlier today. She keeps missing me, but her aim's getting better.
Yeah.
What was the one I always love is, why do men die first? We want to.
Valid.
You're not too loud at that. You better watch out for that dog outside the door.
I know.
Oh, she ain't gonna do shit. That girl is the friendliest thing I've ever met in my life.
But she's a mama's girl.
She is a mama's
never
girl.
know.
She might cuddle you to death. You never know.
That's true.
She'll smother me with kisses, is what it is. Yeah.
Crazier things.
My cat likes to crawl up on my feet when I'm walking down the stairs, so she's trying to kill me.
Yep.
Oh,
so
no.
does she.
This one just likes to barrel, just throw herself into it.
Yeah.
But I relate a lot to you, Alex, where it's like I grew up. I tell the story all the time. Everything that I relate is back to wrestling. This podcast actually started out as a wrestling podcast, because I'm a former independent pro wrestler. So like I grew up from the age of 4 saying I'm gonna be a wrestler. I'm gonna be on WWE. Like I'm going to do that. And then as I got older, I'm like, wow, that's not gonna happen. But like through happenstance, I found like a local gym and like a dojo and stuff like that where they trained, and lo and behold, for 3 years of my life, I was able to like live out a dream of mine. And it's like I relate that to you guys because it's like, oh, we didn't have to go to DC or Marvel to live out this dream because we're able to actually do it ourselves and put ourselves forward and create the content that we want to create, not something that we're told to create, but that we really, embody and have a passion about. So I really relate to that story because it's hard out there sometimes when all you see is the big stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think that it sounds cliche, but like the only thing stopping you from living your dreams is yourself, and maybe some parts of reality.
And money.
And money.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
I was gonna say, like, if it wasn't money, we'd be doing this full time.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to do content full time, but it also doesn't pay us fuck all at the moment.
Right.
So, but what's the difference then between you guys and the big stuff, like the big guys, the big guns?
Besides money?
Besides money.
Well, we always like to tell people that dead is dead. That's a big thing. Like we like stories that end. Dead is dead, right? So we make something like there's an ending in mind, right? If we kill a character, that character's probably dead. You know what I mean? Like you can fake your own death.
It might take us a while to get there, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, exactly. Like we like endings. We like stuff that isn't going to go on and on and on forever. Don't get me wrong. I still love all the Marvel and DC characters.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. But like at some point, you also got to look at it and go, all right, like if for every issue of Spider-Man that was the real time, like he'd be what 3,000 at this point. You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's I think that one of our big things is we like stuff that ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That does,
I love that.
Yeah, that does make sense because then it makes all of your actions have consequences. Like,
yeah, it makes it mean something.
Yeah, like when somebody dies, it's like, oh, hey, like they're not coming back. Like that's a huge storytelling element because it's like, okay, we want this person to survive. They're going to survive. They're not going to like die and then, oh, here's the Lazarus pit.
Yeah. It's like General Hospital.
Oh God, yeah.
Dying and keep coming back.
I was gonna say Days of Our Lives.
Yeah.
I mean, at its most basic, like the what is it? A 3-act structure. All stories need to have a beginning, middle, and an ending.
Yeah.
That's what makes a story really impactful. And as much as like Mark was saying, like I love Spider-Man. He's never gonna have that ending, that that closure. It's always gonna be like, what's the next threat, so we can keep churning this thing out. With the indie scene, it's great. Like look at Invincible is one of my favorite books.
Mm-hmm.
It has an ending.
Yeah,
it goes 150 issues, but it has an ending.
Yeah,
no, and that's what makes it rewarding. It's like as a creator, hey, you know what? I can put a pin in this and work on something else because that's rewarding for me. But as a reader, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to get a resolution to this story without having to wait hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Which like I relate to super hard right now because there's a book series that I'm reading, like an actual like full-fledged book, and I'm stuck on book 8 because the author hasn't released anything in 4 years, and it's like, is this going to have an ending? Like, or is this the ending? Like, is this all I'm getting? Or like, there's a couple shows on Netflix I've started. I got the season 2, ends on a cliffhanger. Never got picked up again. It's like,
it's the worst. It's the worst.
It's the worst feeling. It's like,
but I think it also sucks when something happens and it feels so big, and then the character comes back, and it's like I just had all that emotion for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
yeah.
Well,
it's like I don't know if you watched Lost, right?
I never did.
Yeah, it was such a phenomenon, right? But then like the ending was such a letdown because you're like, so this has all been make believe.
Yeah.
This had no consequences. This was
right.
Stupid.
Yeah. I feel that way a little bit with Game of Thrones. Like the last season.
Don't get me started on that one, man.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Tangent. We said we encourage tangents. I'm going on a tangent.
Here it is. Let's do it.
All right. So I am probably the only one here that did not watch Game of Thrones as it was airing.
No, I didn't either.
Oh, you did?
I watched it years later.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
smart, I guess.
Yeah. So I watched it, the whole series as season, 10? The last season was airing. I watched the whole series.
Yeah. So I got caught up right before that point so I could watch the last season.
Fair enough. I saw the finale live. That is the only episode of Game of Thrones I ever saw live. But when I was watching it in that quick form, the ending isn't as bad as everybody else made it. Like when you're able to just binge it and get it done and out of the way, you're not waiting the 2 years that everybody waited for. You're not
exactly. You don't have, pardon my French, you don't have blue balls, right?
No,
exactly.
you don't.
Yeah.
You're not being
Mark, I think you're with me on this one. You and I have been reading the books as they've been coming out. So for us, our balls are especially blue.
That's rough.
Fucking purple at this point. Okay.
I was gonna say, like, that is just, it's not, they're not even attached. They've been cut off from circulation.
So for me, what hurts is like when before they announced the show was even a thing, anytime I would see somebody on the subway with a book, to me, that's like spotting a unicorn. It's like, oh, you know about this thing that I love that nobody else knows about. Yeah. I remember telling people about Game of Thrones and they're looking at me like I'm a crazy person because like that would never work. That's a dumb idea. And then it became this phenomenon. And I'm like, I kind of felt validated for a second. But at the same time, it's like, I'm watching the show, and my wife, she had never read the book, so she's like, "Oh, that Ned Stark, I really like that character. I want to see where they go with him." And I'm like,
Woo!
it's like, "Oh, Joffrey's an asshole. I hope something bad happens to him." Like,
Yeah.
but then even seeing the ending happening, and I'm like, okay, I get where they're going with this. I get it, but why do they have to do it so shitty? You know,
Right.
it's like, and I'm like, ah. But at the same time, I'm not going to be the one, you know, to harp on like him for not finishing the book. He can go at a pace he wants, but it's like it still hurts. I'm like, I've been waiting for this resolution for like most of my adult life. Again, I read the books as they were coming out, so I, you know, I had them all in hardcover, and I'm like, when the new one comes out, I'm like, I'm there, I'm in. So, and I'll be the first one online when if they ever release a Winds of Winter. I might need a walker, but.
I hope we can keep writing in the afterlife because
that's about where it's going right now.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys ever seen Z Nation or heard of that show?
I've heard it's
amazing,
but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So they make a joke about they reference this in a way. It's like it's a zombie apocalypse show for those who haven't heard, but like there's a scene where they're going to a bookstore and there's basically George R. Martin chained to a desk with the Winds of Winter book as a zombie, and they're like, "Oh, it finally came out at the apocalypse."
I love it.
Glorious.
Yeah, like I can't imagine how long it must take to like create this world, but I feel like once something has become so sensational and it's now a phenomenon, like you kind of gotta do something. Like, you know, people are waiting.
Yeah,
I think in his case he's probably like, oh shit, I'm kind of regretting this getting so big because now I don't know.
Yeah,
like because anything he does, he's got to first. It's going to be compared to the show because like before that the ending happened, it's like, oh, when are you going to get there? Is it going to be as good as what we've been expecting? Is it going to be fan servicey? And now it's going to be like, oh, you just changed it because they fucked it up, or like he's kind of boned in any way.
So. That's true.
Did any of you guys read any Robert Jordan, like Wheel of Time?
No, I've been wanting to though. Like I've actually just started really getting into the fantasy genre like hard lately, but I've been doing more lit RPGs because they like they scratch that video game itch and the reading itch. So it's like I get 2 in 1 kind of thing. But Wheel of Time is on my list.
It's a great series, but I feel like that's another one where he had so many characters and so many things and what like he got to book 9 and I'm sure you know that like he passed away, right? He had disease going on. He knew. And look, Brandon Sanderson did a nice job finishing it. I'm not gonna shit on him because it's not his book, right?
Right.
But like, could he have finished that earlier if he didn't get so crazy with all the different characters?
Yeah.
Probably. Is that part of what made the book what it is? Yeah, also, but like, you know, you had 4 or 5, let's say 6, maybe main characters, maybe a little bit more time with them, and a little bit less time with some of the ancillary characters. You might have gotten there sooner, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of why I love Terry Pratchett is one of my favorite creators, and at least with him, his world, you know, it's an ongoing story in the same world, but it's not like every story has an ending in and of it. It's like self-contained little vignettes in the characters' lives.
Okay.
So with him, he passed away, but at least with him, there's no like lingering story that needs to be resolved. Every episode is basically self-contained.
Right.
So sadly, we're not going to get any more Discworld, but what we have, we can be happy with what we had, you know?
Yeah.
You said that's Discworld?
Discworld is the series.
Terry Pratchett's fantastic. He still probably wrote 25 books or so in Discworld, and each one is different. Like,
I know you love a long series.
I love a long series.
Yeah.
It's about 45 books. 45 books, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's what you've been looking for.
From heaven for me.
Do you like Fun again?
Oh yeah. It's basically if Monty Python, Douglas Adams wrote a fantasy series.
Yeah.
You will love that.
Yes, I would.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, got to check that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down in my phone actually right now.
Yeah.
As you ask their next question.
Yeah.
I mean, and like so, like all the series like has a lot of same recurring characters, but there's a few that are in every series, right?
Okay.
But they're back. It's mostly cameos, and then sometimes those characters have like our plot points. Like one of the main characters is Death, you know, and he's kind of a good guy. He loves humanity,
but he's kind of a fuck up also.
He's kind of a fuck up. There's one of my favorite characters is Rincewind. He's a wizard who doesn't know any spells, and he's a coward. I love him.
I love that.
One of the other recurring characters that's in all of them is also he's a wizard who got turned into an orangutan and never wants to change back. He's the librarian. It's great. You're gonna love it. They've made a few movies and shows about it too. So if you like that, but the books are where it's at.
And I think he does a nice job of representation too. Like I mean, you know, not only that, but like, you know, there's a number of, you know, strong female characters in books. Like not just like old school, you know, sci-fi writer that wrote mainly about men, right?
Yeah. Like one of the books, Equal Rights, is about the first female wizard.
Oh hell
that's dope.
Yeah. You know, one of his main characters is the three witches. Some of my favorite characters. But if you're into video games too, so his daughter was a template for a lot of the characters. She ends up becoming a writer for the Tomb Raider games.
The new ones?
The newer ones, Brianna Pratchett.
Shit. That's awesome.
That's dope.
She's a video game writer. So
that is so cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I know you had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about like we're talking about sort of the long-winded writing process for people. How do you guys go about your creative process when you're creating
bourbon, lots of bourbon.
Bourbon help. I mean,
I felt that.
Beer's good.
Beer.
But, you know.
You're good.
But you know, honestly, like I think, and it depends. So I'll answer that two ways. The first way is if I'm doing something and it's just me, right? It's usually the concept and then kind of outlining a little bit, having an idea of where I want to get to an ending, and having enough meat there that I know I can kind of go through and get there, right? But that being said, what I always find super interesting is sometimes if you set up your character profile correctly and you really know the voice of that character or those characters or whatever, sometimes they do things that you don't expect them to do. Right. And so sometimes that story takes a weird left or a right turn or a pause or whatever, or sometimes doesn't quite end where I think it's going to end. So like, I feel like to some extent, it's a little bit like a D&D game. It's a little bit like, you know, you're kind of like, I'm setting this in motion. I know where it should go, but at the end of the day, maybe the ship sinks and everybody dies. I don't know. Right. And the other thing I would say is I'd say when Alex and I work together, it's pretty collaborative. Like, you know, obviously I'm writer, he's artist. But when I write comic book stuff, and I think certainly when he and I work, we try to have that conversation. We try to have that dialogue. I always appreciate it, even when I've done work for hire, when my artists add their personality into it. I try not to overwrite anything. You know, I know there's writers out there that want down to the little detail, and there's a picture of the gleam in this person's eye and a whole nother whatever, you know.
Yeah,
it takes away the fun for the artist, I think. You know.
Yeah, the collaborative process is definitely where it's at for making comics specifically, because you need that, you know, like Mark was saying, like as an artist, if somebody's telling me how to draw something, I don't want to work with them, because like that's my job. You tell me the story you want to tell, I'll help you visualize it, you know, and I'm gonna definitely, because like sometimes it's like, as a writer, even as an artist, sometimes you get this myopic view of like, this is what I want to do. And sometimes you need that voice from out on high to say, no, I get where you're going with this, but this makes more sense, or this translates better to a visual medium. Because you have some writers who are like, they're kind of novelists who don't get the visualness of comics. That's a word now I'm using, visualness. So like, and that's where Mark and I really work well together, because, you know, we take a lot of our stuff from a cinematic approach of like, this looks cool. This is how the motion works. So a lot of times, like when we're going back and forth, he might say on the page, the character does this action. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Maybe we put a spin on this so that we're not, you know, like Mark and I think we both have this philosophy of show rather tell, you know? So it's like, it's not going to be the character's going to be dialoguing. I'm going to go to my, you know, to my shelf and get this magic potion and drink it. It's more of like, no, you see the guy walk it, he takes it, he looks at it, look of fear and apprehension, because you know this is a bad news for him to drink it, and he does it anyway. So it's like those, like that is what really makes comics what it is. It's, you know, it's that back and forth of like being able to like see how things are going to progress.
The beauty of comics too is like one of the reasons why you see so many movies based off of comic books and whatnot is because they've already storyboarded it. Every one of those panels is a shot, and a lot of times when we're going back and forth, that's how I'll describe it: is shot from above, shot from this way. I'm looking at this as the audience and seeing the back of the person's head or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really what comics are. They're moments in time, and so it's shot. It's storyboard.
And a lot of times when we're both trying to understand how the scene's gonna play out, like it was easier to do this when we were face to face, but even over like a Zoom call, like I'll get up like some screen sharing thing and I'll be like, no, is this what you're talking about? No, this is like, and I'll do like motion lines like a storyboard.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And even with dialogue, a lot of times we'll sit there and it sounds silly from outside, but it's just like, no, the tone should be like this, no, like this,
Yeah.
And like that's how we'll edit dialogue, instead like we actually with Damn Heroes we did a lot of that because Dr. Entropy, a lot of times like I hear it in Mark's voice in many ways, but sometimes it's like, no dude, you need to dial up the mad scientist. And there's cases where it's like Mark always gives me shit because I'm saying he's overwriting or like his dialogue can get very verbose but when I'm there and I'm like, I'm making it more inflated, he's like, aren't you the one telling me I'm verbose? And that's like, no, like there's some cases like where it makes more sense to go big,
Yeah.
So I just appreciate that you hear our villains, projection.
Well, it's specifically, the blonde hair, blue eyed, female villain that I hear in your voice. Sure. So take that as it
is. I mean, the likeness is incredible. So
I'm going to turn you into the next time I see you.
Been there, done that, man. Come on.
So tell us a little bit more about I just heard our dog. I just heard a squeaky toy outside our door.
I thought that was a fart.
It just threw me completely off. But I did have a question about explaining a little bit more about what your comics actually are. Because you guys say Damn Heroes, you had Horsemen, like kind of go into a little bit of detail. This is kind of like the sales pitchy part of the podcast where it's like, explain what people are looking at when they buy a Wayward Raven comic.
Sure. Well, we always talked about it. It's a story that's going to end. And speaking of ending, we actually just ended Damn Heroes about a month or two ago.
Okay.
We've been doing it for a little bit over 10 years. And it was a web comic that actually you can start finding on Webtoons right now as well. Nice. But it's basically a young man goes 5 miles an hour over the speed limit through Hero City, ends up with 5 years community service, right? Whole city, overly righteous, overly zealous superheroes. His landlord's a supervillain. Basically, we take all the crap that makes us laugh from comics and pop culture and stuff like that, and we kind of threw it out there. And then it started to kind of take on a life of its own, and characters of its own, things like that.
So with Damn Heroes, is it like set in like a My Hero Academia kind of world where everybody has a power kind of thing, or
it's more like the old school newspaper strips, it's where it's just like bump set spike, but like everyone, including like the weatherman's is a superhero,
Okay.
And like Sebastian, our main character, he's like the only normal person in town, and he's like, I need to get out of here. This place sucks. But he's essentially trapped because he's got to do community service, and it can range from being the birthday clown at retired superheroes home to like picking up trash on the side of the road after a kaiju attacks. It's like we kind of go for the absurdity of the mundane, like dating or going to the dentist. And like Mark said, it's like we've been running it for 10 years. Eventually we got to the point where like he meets us, the creators, and then we poke fun at him along with our supervillain. And then there's just sometimes where it's just us riffing on stupid stuff that we're thinking about, or like going inside baseball, essentially. Like, actually, the best part is like one of the common things that happens at conventions is people come to our table and ask, "What can you get for free?" And we're constantly shit talking people, when they do that, because it's like, dude, we're paying to be here. It's like,
that's kind of fucked.
It's like, this little girl dressed as Elsa comes up like, what can I get for free? snark derision. It's like, why does nobody buy our books? I don't know.
But, like, and that's the other thing too, is like when you go to Comic-Con, it's like you're there to spend money.
You're there to, you better have money.
Like, I will never understand how somebody could look at that and be like, oh, what can I get for free? Like, I'm never looking for free things at a Comic-Con. I'm
like,
looking
I will
to
bring
support
several $100s and be like, damn, I should have brought more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of get it. Like, you know, there's budgetary concerns, but I know there's a trend of people who like they go to cons because like I think it's like there's people who go to cons because they like the comics, they like their fans.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like this other current, I think, people who may have started at big shows and they're used to like non-comic book things giving stuff away as promotional things.
Right.
So it's like they make it a game like, what can I get snagged for free? And it's like, I get that, but you're really hurting the creators who are paying money to be there to get their stuff into audiences.
Yeah.
You know?
And we don't mind.
We try to do stuff for free, huh?
Yeah, we don't mind giving promotional stuff away. In fact, actually, one of the things we'll do, I don't know if you guys caught this, but you know, you buy $15 or more at our table. Usually, I got one of these for you.
Love it.
Oh,
it's a beer for people who can't tell.
Yeah,
yeah. For the audio listeners, it's a beer.
I happen to be a home brewer. We make beer. We usually love bringing stuff to conventions and giving that away. And so,
that's awesome.
You know, I mean, something like, and it's easy too. You know, Signed is a completed trade. Horseman's a completed trade. Buy it, I give you a beer. You know, I mean,
or if we can't do a beer, like, so, you know, because sometimes we just logistically can't bring them. You know, like we've done hot sauces, or we just give you stickers.
Ooh.
Sometimes, like, you know, like, again, we have a lot of floppies for things that have been turned into trades. You know, like one thing we've recently started doing, if you buy Horseman, you get signed one for free as a floppy. You know, we'll sign it. It's a little collector's item. We've also taken to giving away freebies on our website. We literally have a page on our website that says /freebies. So, you know, you sign up for a mailing list, we give away free digital books.
Nice.
You know, we've also been just trying to get more people to come to our website, so we're starting to do more merchandise, you know, and like free content. So like we definitely urge people, go to our website, sign up for the mailing list. Right now we're doing like promotional for the holidays, like 50% off digital stuff, you know.
Oh, nice.
We're always trying to we want to get our stuff in people's hands. And like, actually, like Mark said, if you're on Webtoons, you can read Damn Heroes for free. You go to our website, damnheroes.com. You can read that for free.
Yep.
You can. We'd love it if you bought the book.
Yeah.
But you can read the webcomic for free. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part with like an independent content creator of any kind, whether it's comics, podcast, music. We like the episode we just released last week. It was an independent band that we saw open up for a bigger band, and like we had the vocalist on, and it's just like we were both lamenting just how hard it is to set yourself apart, especially when you have, and especially in our world, so many celebrities coming out with podcasts. It's like, how the fuck are we supposed to stand out from a Dax Shepard? How are we supposed to stand out from an XYZ that have all of these people behind them? And it's like, all we can do is make content that we like. And it's like, yeah, we would love for this to be our full-time job. Will it be? Probably not. Yeah. But like, we want it to be, and we're going to put everything that we have into it. And that's the same with like music and comics and stuff like that. So trust me, I lament with just trying to get content out there, like just to get people to watch or listen or read or whatever. Like it's a hard thing.
Well, and it's tough too, because like Alex and I have talked about like the social media component and stuff like that.
God,
you know,
so hard.
Yeah, I do. I try to make a point of always liking my friend's stuff, sharing it when I can.
Yep.
That sort of thing, because so actually along those lines, that's where this came from. We Suck at Comics.
Yes.
Yes, we were going to get to that at some point.
Yeah.
Like that's all about like, how do we get the community together? You know, you've got a book, I've got a book, we've got stuff, you know, how we're stronger together, right? But I mean, making that social media content is so tough. It's so time consuming. You know, it's great when we're together at a con and we can do it easily. But yeah, it's, you know, it's tough. And just, I don't know. I don't have the time to do nonstop promotion or, you know,
that's
on TikTok 3 times a day. You know, I just, Yeah.
We just don't have enough content to even put on TikTok 3 times a day. Like
For real.
we were just talking about it last night. I was like, we need to start doing some more of like
trends.
As stupid as it is, some more
Trends
of the trendy stuff.
Stupid like games and shit like that. Like it's like that's how you get your face
views
out there, I guess.
I guess if like in 100 views, if one person listens to the full podcast and likes it, then we've at least reached somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a slow burn. Like we'll probably be at this for 20 years before we even see any kind of return on investment. But like at the same time, it's something you got to do to just try. You know.
Yeah. But alternatively, Alex and I have a plan. We're gonna have an OnlyFans with just our feet.
Nobody wants to see my feet. Nobody wants to see my feet.
I know there's people into Hobbit stuff. I'm in.
I was gonna say you gotta like some disgusting shit if you like my feet.
Listen, there's a market for everything.
This is true. This is true. Yeah.
That's true. They pay double. It's the normal price to see it, and then they double it just that way you don't say anything.
Excellent. That is the plan.
It'll be triple.
I was gonna say I'll blackmail you to not say that you bought my feet pics. So you guys just finished up Damn Heroes. Tell us about Horsemen.
Cool. Absolutely. So Horsemen, sci-fi action adventure loosely based on the 4 Horsemen Apocalypse. Okay. They're the good guys, and they're fighting fate and destiny to preserve free will throughout the multiverse.
Love that.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Another one of those like dead is dead, done is done. You know, that's finished. Alex and I have talked about, would we re-enter the universe at some point in time? Maybe. But I mean,
we talked about that for Signed as specifically because just since mythology is something that runs in both of our veins, like Signed C is basically a mythological detective story about like the ancient Greek gods getting day jobs, right? Okay. And as part of the mystery, the main character discovers a plot from the ancient Greek gods and her past. And if you've read the Iliad, you'll figure out who the hell this character is. And strong female character, so there's that. Yep. But that universe is rich with story ideas, and in fact, the joke is not the joke. The backstory is that Mark and Josh wrote a different story in that universe first, but the artist who worked on it wanted to do Signed C instead of the other one, Signed O. So we have another story in that universe, different characters, but same universe. And Mark and I, we've been, I was like, hey, dude, like, it's funny that, I mean, as a Greek person, it's like, I want to do more Greek mythology stuff. It's something I love. I'm like, and we just start riffing some stupid ideas that would fit into that universe. Like, we're like, did we just come up with a multiverse? So like, we keep talking about like, dipping into the same well, but it's not going to be like, hey, let's take the same character, do the same thing in a different package and just try to cash in. Let's tell a different story, maybe in the same world or maybe with the same tone, but it's different. It's its own thing,
Yeah.
It's almost like Game of Thrones and then like House of the Dragon. It's like same
better.
Yeah, well,
an idea only.
An idea in premise alone.
Yeah.
Is really
I would compare it to like maybe like an American Horror Story or like some type of an anthology series where it's like similar theme with the same brand. Like that's kind of where we suck at comics is really going. And now that we're doing volume 2, it's literally an anthology where it's like new theme, same brand, some of the same creators, but like different stories.
Yeah,
right.
Our story that actually is going to be kind of a Signed universe sort of story. It's a short, but
it's more just like our version of like a Greek tale. So like everyone knows the god of war Ares.
Yep.
But people don't remember that he has kids. He's got a sister. So we're telling a family story with those characters, and it's kind of like a little bit of a different take. I think we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, as you can see, we love mythology. I mean, even Horsemen. I mean, look, some people may want to disagree with me or not, but let's face it,
it's mythology.
It's mythology, right?
Yeah. As much as people may get upset about that, literally the Bible is just a written down version of mythology.
Yeah.
It is literally in definition rules and stories to live by to live a good and happy life.
Yeah.
That is mythology as a whole. Like the Greeks didn't, like the Greeks believed in their gods, but they also believed these stories because they're like, hey, this is a moral way to live.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
let's also not forget there's a lot of similarities between all these different cultures, you know. So
Tons
there's
of them. Yeah.
it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Bible's
It's
not
all
original.
from the same general area of the world somehow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there was an empire that once believed in all of these different gods, and then it suddenly just changed to believe in one.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
Almost like they picked and chose their stories and what was relevant at the time.
Yeah, and then you have like the subsects where they all believe in the same universe of the same god, but you know, things are interpreted differently. Like, I wonder where that came from.
Yeah.
Anyway,
why is it some of these gods have different names, but they're the same person?
Yes. Not to get
wait a second, I figured something out.
That's okay. I'll be canceled by Christians. I'm fine with that.
Well,
that wouldn't be the first time for me.
Fair enough.
To be fair, me neither.
But speaking of anthology series, you kind of brought it up a couple times. We Suck at Comics. Can you talk about how that came to be? Because I love that idea.
It's a really good idea.
A lot of it.
I'm a big fan.
As you may have noticed, we're very much into self-deprecating humor, and after doing this for 10 years, we're realizing like, okay, we're clearly doing something wrong, but as we've been doing this, we've met a lot of friends who've also kind of been feeling the same way, and like the name itself just came like, you know, again as usual, riffing ideas, and we're like, yo, we really suck at this. I'm like, that's perfect, that's the name. But where it came from is all of us independent creators, we're all trying to do our own thing for all these years. We've tried different attempts to do anthologies separately, and they all failed, and again leading to that, oh my god, we suck at this. But then we realized like the one thing that that everyone was missing was they were all kind of doing it independently, and we're like, no, we need to do this together. You know, we all have tried doing this separately. We've all saying, hey, come to my project. No, let's just get everyone in a room. And once we started getting the bigger consensus together, we were able to bring in more people outside of that. And like one person's network fed into the other person's network. And then once it went through a Kickstarter, that's where it blew up. Like even Kickstarter tagged it as a project they love because it was such an interesting, cool idea. People who are in the book were ones who have never been published, never gotten a chance to be published. And it's like it was almost like us bringing in the next generation of creators, you know, being the shepherds now after all these years.
Yeah, I mean,
that's so cool.
One of the things that we love doing, we love talking to up and coming creators. We love, you know, working with them and whatnot. We've been doing this for over 10 years now, right? So we've learned a lot of hard lessons. I always tell folks, like, every now and then we get up on podcasts or we get in panels and things like that. And like, well, you know, what have you learned? I'm like, fail. Go fail again and fail again. I'm not saying do the same damn thing over and over again, but you know,
maybe that's not a lesson we've learned yet.
We're hard-headed, but yeah. But I mean, that's how you learn. You learn, okay, we did that a little bit differently. Even I'll tell you what, even from this book, there's things in the next volume we're going to do differently that we hadn't done before. Like we just assumed, oh, this will be fine, you know?
Yeah.
And it worked out well, but didn't quite work out exactly how we planned. So, you know, it has everything from that brand new, never been published before, clear on through to some of the folks that have been around the block. They've been with us for a while. It also, Alex, if you remember, it came from, you know, there's a group, Creator Aftercon, that we're part of.
Yep.
And they're awesome. You know, we've been hanging out with those guys for many years, and it's always like all the indie creators get together around some big conventions like San Diego or New York or whatever, and they go hang out at the bar, they talk, you kind of have that networking session. Sometimes you come out of it with something, sometimes not. But the whole idea there years ago, they're like, well, we should do an anthology. Well, yeah, you know, and we tried to do it. Somebody tried to lead it. It kind of fell through, and we're like, well, screw this. And I think I'd said, we're just going to do this on our own. You know, if these folks want to be part of it, awesome. You know, we're more than happy to help. We're more than happy to take the charge, but we weren't going to wait around for someone else to do it. And some of the folks in that anthology were part of that and were instrumental at really helping push that. You know, Jeff and Johnny, and I mean, I could probably go on and on. Sebastian,
yeah.
You know,
actually, the one thing that and where Mark was touching on is like one of the things that where a lot of people failed was like everyone like the common thing for anthologies is like everyone's like, hey, here's the theme, go forth and create, and then life gets in the way, and then when you're like, okay, what have you guys done? Oh, you're still in the middle of this, you're still in the middle of that, you're still working out. Like there was in fact, the thing that's going to be in volume 2 for us was something we did for somebody else's anthology. They're still going through like waiting for creators. It's like, you know, they're almost there, you know, and granted, things came up, things always come up. We get that. Where we went a little differently was like, okay, give us finished work, because every comics creator has a story in their back pocket that didn't get where it needs to be. So we're like, okay, cool. Just give us that thing, you know.
Or give us prose. We don't have give us artwork, right?
Yeah.
Like, this anthology has a number of prose pieces that the next volume is going to have that too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But like for us, like the key was like, give us stuff that like, again, that's where we came from a place of rejection. Give us your rejected ideas, things that didn't hit right, things that were mostly done, and then you needed a little time to finish, because that way that helped us get it out quicker. But also it's like, it's not us having to chase after people. It's like, give us things that need a second life. And that's where I think where a lot of it came from. And it's going to continue from, because again, that's with our new theme, coloring outside the lines. We're leaning more towards art pieces, but we're still taking things that should have been completed, which is going to be more helpful to get things out the door.
Yeah, but I mean, even stuff that like we want stuff that fits that theme, right? Again, and coloring outside the lines. I mean, it goes back to that. We want to help other folks. We want to give people a platform, right? And we want to have that representation. And so we're looking for those stories that are a little bit askew or a little different, like us, you know, and a little bit weird, a little bit, you know, whatever. We want that stuff.
Some of the ideas we got were really weird.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I love it.
But sometimes that's the thing that catches on the most is the weirdest.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
that's what I'm most interested in.
Yeah, I
like,
was gonna say
the fucked up shit.
Yeah, you want to see the weirdest shit.
Yeah.
I want to see the thing that tells the best story, and you're just like, no, I don't care as long as it's like fucked up. Like I don't care. But I really like that.
We got a little bit of both in the next one. In fact, we definitely dialed up the weird. Yeah. Like there were a couple of submissions we got. I mean, we're not going to name names or just talk about it, because it's some of the stuff was like we just kind of looked at each other over a Zoom call. It's like, can we publish this?
It's almost like the thing that made you stop reading American Gods.
Oh yes, I can't. That was too much for me.
That was too weird.
What made you stop reading American Gods?
I think I might know what it is, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was the part where the woman is like eating the dude with her vagina. I can't do it. I just
I can see that.
It was too descriptive, and it just made my skin crawl.
Yeah, but didn't you watch a movie called Teeth where that's like the whole fucking premise?
Yeah, but I was ready for it.
That's the thing. Teeth. You need to prepare yourself for teeth in a vagina. Believe me, we've all been there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't.
That's fair. But I really do like the concept that you guys are bringing to the table, because it makes so much sense as to pushing the idea of we're going to do this on our own because it's the right thing to do, because we know that there's so much out there that needs this life. And it's like we've all faced rejection no matter what, and it's like you guys are turning this into such a positive for people that it's now something that people can actually like look forward to, like as an up and coming artist or something like that. They can say, oh, I can breathe life into this thing that I'm so passionate about, because sometimes you have to sell your soul to kind of make the passion projects work. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely a hard concept sometimes to grasp, and having an outlet for that is so important.
So much stuff that we consume now is so very carefully curated.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like it has to, I'm only looking at, and you can go look at agent submissions and things like that, and they'll tell you, I'm only looking for characters that fit this, right? I only want this. I mean, rather if that's because that's what they think can sell, or if that's what they think they're passionate about, whatever. I'm not going to make any judgment on it. But what I am going to say is there's a lot of like, I'm only looking for this. I'm limiting. And I think we see that. It doesn't matter. Pick a medium. We see that, right? So the ability to say, let's look for the shit that's a little bit outside of what's normal. I hate remakes of movies. I hate the continued forever, ever, let's just, make something new.
You can only do Fast and Furious so many times.
Oh, once.
Like,
that's exactly.
See, I will always go see them because I just like watching shit explode. Like,
but that's what it's for. That's what it's for. It's not exactly what it's not high art,
Right.
Yeah, no, but like that's where her and I differ because she's never seen one and she's like, I have no interest in seeing it.
I really don't.
And I'm like, well, what if I got you high? And she's like, now hang on.
I'm listening.
But like that's where it's different is like even our Netflixes and our Hulus and stuff like that, they're all curated to show us what we have recently watched. I watch Family Guy. Right. I watch Family Guy literally every night before we go to bed. It's Family Guy, American Dad, Futurama. Something along those lines where it's stupid humor to fall asleep to. What is most of our Hulu? A lot of dumb animated comedies.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're listening to you and observing what your methods are. And things.
Yeah.
Oh no, Skynet. But like, and it's one of those things where
it makes it hard to find stuff.
Yeah, like my Spotify is the same metalcore bands I listen to all the time. And things that sound like that. And it's like, yes, I want to listen to that, but I also want to hear whoever just released this dope ass rap album or like this dope country album because I weirdly like all of those things.
Yeah.
But no, you're touching on something because like the experience from media companies is they want you to consume the same thing all the time because that's something they can regurgitate.
Right.
Whereas we're taking it old school. It's like, we're definitely moving from word of mouth, and it's just like, yo, I like this, you might like this too. Or if you don't like this, I got something else you might like.
Yeah.
This is what my buddy's doing. And that's the approach we've been taking. A lot of times, like, we're with cons, when we talk to people, it's like, okay, we might not make a sale, but maybe we'll make a friend.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I was going to say, you guys made enough of an impression for us that we've sat here talking for an hour and barely about your company.
What did I tell you about how we derail things?
Listen, I'm here for it. So are you guys still looking for submissions? I saw that on your website and I wanted to make sure that was accurate, or if not, if you guys are working towards volume 3. We just closed for this one.
Okay. But there is a spot on our website to kind of, hey, alert me if you guys are looking for stuff. It's kind of a sign up. It's part sign up for the mailing list, part for like, let me know when you're doing the next issue. Because, we've got a great response for volume 2. I'm really happy with a lot of the stuff that's come in. And a lot of it's from folks that we've known but haven't done stuff with yet too, or even some stuff that just kind of came out that we hadn't seen before. So awesome. I'm really excited for it, and I very, very strongly envision doing an issue 3. So
awesome! Nice. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
If anybody goes to our website, we have this little thing on the side rail that says "Want to make comics? Join us." That's what Mark's talking about. Awesome. It's something for specific comic creators if they want to like say, "Hey, I'm an inker. What do you want to? Let's work together." That's fine.
Yeah.
Or just join from our newsletter, and then like when something comes up, you'll be alerted. I keep stressing this. We don't spam. We just do it so we can get a signal out there. Follow us on social media, email us, whatever. Just say hi.
It's really we only put stuff out when we have legitimate updates.
Even if it's illegitimate, it's just not spam. It's just like, hey, this is how we're feeling.
Yeah. And sometimes that's important. Like people want to have that connection to the creators that they have. Like her and I, we've been doing this podcast for since July, August.
Yeah,
something like that. And it started out as a wrestling podcast, like I said, and now we're like divulging into interviews and stuff like that. And we've talked to each other and we're like, we haven't put out a solo episode in forever.
Yeah.
And it's like people don't get to know us that way. Like they get to know little snippets of like what we're talking about with the people that we find, but they don't get to know us. And it's like I think that's how you build such a good solid brand and like a good following and stuff like that.
Especially
it's just,
like the age of the internet. It's like people want to feel like they know you.
Yeah.
And it's like they can.
Yeah, they can. They can ask us any question. Like we'll answer it honestly and truthfully. It doesn't matter how fucked up it is. But like at the end of the day, it's just like having connection is so part of the human experience, and it feels like we've lost some of that. So like with the internet and stuff, so like having a place to follow your favorite creators or even creators that you may not know you like. That's so important because it's like, let's find something new. Let's branch out and be weird and embrace the curiosity of our mind because we're being so numbed down. Like I sound like a crotchety old man. I'm the youngest one here. But
I mean, actually, well, on that same note too, with the way the algorithm works,
Bonsai is the youngest one.
What I was saying is like the way the algorithm works, it's like they just want you consuming, but definitely share, spread the word too.
Yeah.
If you like us, share it.
Yeah.
Link to other people, tell us about it. Spread the word. You know?
Right.
And that's such a hard thing because it's like we want to spread the word about all the people that we talk to, but it's like we don't want to get to the point of like annoying people, you know. And it's such a fine line because it's like if you over promote, then people are just like, oh, shut the fuck up. But then it's like if you don't promote enough, people won't hear it.
And it's like, no, but I think this is so fucking cool. I need you to see it.
Like it's so crazy. But one of the last things that we have, you guys are children's authors.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Allegedly. How did that happen?
I had kids.
Fair enough.
And actually, a couple things came together. I think I always kind of wanted to do a kid's book and have a lot of those visual, thoughts in my mind. But we also met this really, really cool artist. I forget what con we met her at, but
probably New York Comic Con. She's from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If it wasn't NYCC, then it was probably special edition or some Brooklyn show.
Yeah. And, I mean, she just showed us her work and it was absolutely gorgeous and it was amazing. In fact, I went down to one of her gallery shows one time and in Brooklyn and it was fantastic. I mean, it was gorgeous, some of the stuff she was doing. So I think that kind of led to, hey, I want to work with you on some stuff. And we talked back and forth. And so she did all of Percy in watercolor.
Wow.
Yeah. Even there, drew on a lot of those mythology, right? So Percy's a Surish. He's never met another of his kind before, and he goes looking for more like him, right? And if you look at him, he's kind of this chimera sort of character. And then what you realize is the Surish is actually something from the Ishtar Gates. It was a kind of dragon sort of character, and we made it a little bit more kid friendly, a little more dramatic, that sort of thing. But it kind of came with that, I'm looking for more people like me, sort of story.
That's actually really cool. Like I really like that. That probably would have been something I definitely would have read as a kid.
Yeah.
It's actually the story that a lot of times blows me away the most because even years later, I've had people come up and say, "Oh, wait, I bought that," and they're like, "I got that from you," and you know what? That I read that to my kid every night for how we're like that's their favorite, and that's like holy cow! Like, how do you it? All of the other stuff is cool, but to make that kind of impact is that's amazing, So
and I think especially because like being a kid, like I remember the stories that I loved my parents reading me, like they made such a huge impact on like how I grew up and who I grew up to be. So it's like that is very, very cool that you also have that experience.
Yeah.
And then there's me who didn't have his parents read him anything, so he just read Harry Potter, and now he's just a fucking nerd.
You're a wizard, Damien.
One of us. One of us.
You got the beard for it. I mean, geez.
And listen, the beard's getting long, guys. Like,
it is.
This is probably like the second longest I've ever had it, and it's like, what do I do with this? Do I keep it going? Do I shave it? I'm like, and I'm like, keep it going.
Just make it look nice. Shape it up.
Exactly.
Every 3 weeks, man. Every 3 weeks.
Yeah. I'm about due to probably get a little bit of a shape up and trim. Too many kids are out telling me their Christmas gift list now.
I was gonna say, especially with the Santa hat and everything. Like,
yeah.
You'll be starting to get the red jumpsuit. Oh.
Oh my god! I was debating on wearing this. I have a T-shirt, Santa shirt that says "Where my hose at."
Oh god, that would be perfect.
So good.
It's really funny because like this is going to come out Christmas Day.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm super hyped for that. But
I think that's the show title for you. That's the working title. Where my hose at?
Where my hose at?
Listen,
where my hose at?
That's the title.
That's it.
Yeah, that's.
Have you guys seen Violent Night? Have you seen Violent Night?
I need
You need to see that.
I love David Harbour so much. I need to see it.
And then there's me who's like, I can't get into horror movies or slashers. Like,
it's not a horror. It's not a horror. It's basically Die Hard with Santa. I mean, they do ratchet up the gore, but it's Die Hard with Santa.
All right, no, I'm in now. I love it.
Yeah.
So this is coming out on Christmas. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes or no?
Yes.
Although I did hear Bruce himself say at his roast, it's not a Christmas movie. It's a Bruce Willis movie.
Yeah, well, Bruce Willis.
I'll give him that one.
The other question that we've had debate over for Christmas movies, and this kind of relates to comics, is Batman Returns a Christmas movie? Thank you.
I will say that I
saw is Iron Man 3.
Oh, yeah,
that's a good one too.
Yeah, the director himself said it's a Christmas movie, so
perfect.
His word is gospel.
See, maybe you do like Christmas movies.
Maybe I do like Christmas movies.
You just need to find the right one.
Exactly.
Listen, Home Alone is a comic book, and I'll die by that. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, oh my god, I was just listening to some fan theories about that, and you guys might appreciate this. There's a fan theory that like Home Alone is really just it's the story of Kevin. He's dead, and that's all his fever dream as he's dying.
Oh,
but if you look at especially Home Alone 2, it kind of works out because like they're really just feeling their missing child.
Yeah,
it's dark, but it works.
It is dark. Oh my god!
Listen,
wow, that's
like
real
it.
Dark. But what were you gonna say?
Oh, Christmas!
Down, Alex.
Merry Chrysler.
Merry Chrysler. Merry Crisis.
Merry Chrysler.
But no, I was gonna say that I saw in my Facebook memories earlier that like years ago I made a status that was like The Karate Kid is a Christmas movie, and I don't know why I said that.
Because I don't think it takes place around Christmas.
I don't know.
A Halloween movie.
Halloween, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, weird.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
You must have been hammered.
Probably. Yeah.
That tracks.
It does.
All right, guys. I think as we're winding down, I do have one last question for both of you.
37.
In a row?
How did you know?
Wow. That's but I have to ask because we kind of do this like with some of our guests and stuff like that. Your favorites. I have to know, what is your favorite comic book arc?
Comic book arc?
Yeah.
Ooh.
We can do favorite comic books too. Like we can expand it a little bit, but like I need to know because I'll start. Mine is The Court of Owls from Batman. I think that is an almost flawless arc for a Batman story of Gotham Underground and the elite, and I think it's such a great story. It's damn near perfect for me, and I love reading it.
Oof.
So I won't say it's an arc, but it's an issue. I'll go there.
Okay.
So and this is purely as an artist. When I was introduced to one of the G.I. Joe comics, right? It was The Rise of Cobra. I'm drawing a blank on the creative team, but it was like a lot of the stories take place through the eyes of one of the characters, Chuckles, and it's like kind of it's the rise of Cobra before Cobra was a thing. But there's one issue. It's a standalone story, and it's told as the twins, Zamax and Tomax.
Okay.
And it's a total reimagining of the Cobra characters in more of a real world gritty setting. But the arc is the entire issue is a mirror of itself. So the first page and the last page are reflections of each other until it meets in the middle, where the two brothers are looking at each other instead of in a mirror. And it's the rise and fall of the brother, and like that midpoint is the turn to the other brother's story and his decline. It is peak visual beauty in comics. It is that arc, that visual medium, and only that works in comics. It would never work in it. You can maybe do it in a movie, but it's a pure comic book story.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
While Mark answers, I will find the name of the book.
Yes, please do, because I want to read
that. That sounds really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's tough for me to say what my favorite is. I'd say if I'm going back to kind of some of the things that I think made an impact on me as a kid, there was kind of like Kraven's Last Hunt.
Okay.
And that one really hit me as a kid, especially because you literally have like, burying Spider-Man and him kind of, becoming him and whatnot. It was a weird, and it threw me as a kid. I'm like, you can't fucking do that to Spider-Man. Like, and it bugged me. It got under my skin. I still have some of the visual images stuck in my head, however many years later.
Wow.
And I guarantee I could probably go pull the whole run because I know I have it somewhere.
Wow. So
yeah, that's one of those that just whatever, it stuck with me. It was visually gorgeous too.
Yeah.
It was,
I don't think I've read a lot of Spider-Man. Like I said, I'm a DC guy, but I love the adaptation of the 1997 animated series that they did of Spider-Man.
I love that one. Yeah.
One of the, I would say maybe that is number 2 adaptations of animated series from a comic. The first one is obviously Batman for me. But Kraven was such a great character in the animated series. I'm very intrigued to actually go read that comic run now.
It spans. So this is, I had to look it up because I was pretty certain I was right, but it spans. It was an Amazing Spider-Man. It was part of, Web of Spider-Man. It's Peter Parker's spectacle. It hit multiple.
Interesting.
Books. It was this huge kind of cross promotional event, and some of the scenes in it are gorgeous. I mean, I can send you the link on Wikipedia or whatever, but
yes, please.
Yeah. It's really, I'll put it right here in our private chat.
There it
is. But it's, I mean,
I'll also link to the G.I. Joe thing. It's called G.I. Joe Cobra.
Okay.
What's the name? Christos Gage, Mike Costa, and it's drawn by Antonio Fuso.
Okay.
Nice.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check both of those out. They sound amazing as comics.
Yeah. It was cool. I feel like the Web of Spider-Man one, that was the one that really, like, the visuals on it were pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to check those now. Do you have an answer for your favorite comic book?
I don't know. I wasn't prepared for this one.
I know.
Growing up, I wasn't really a comic book kid, but
it's Horseman. It's Horseman.
It's Horseman.
Yeah,
obviously.
Or Sign See the Missing.
But I think I really enjoyed. I think like 2014, Harley Quinn Vengeance Unlimited came out, and I really enjoyed that. So
that one's actually a really good run.
I love Harley Quinn as a character. Like, again, like she's a doctor.
Yeah.
And like I love villains. That's my thing. Is I love villains.
You do love villains. I mean, that's why you're Catwoman at our
exactly.
wedding.
So
it's the funny. As we went through Damn Heroes, we recognized, like, I think we thought of ourselves as we're the good guys and we're doing the whatever. And then we're like, you know,
I said no such thing.
Yeah, we're like, even when we started writing ourselves into it, we're like, we're definitely the bad guys here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because
You might appreciate this. My
in like in a universe of no, like, with no powers, and he's just fucked. Like,
and we just keep making it worse.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point he literally shows up and he's like, "Would you just stop kicking me?" We're like, "No."
What were you gonna say, Alex? Sorry, I cut you off.
I was gonna say, for my wedding, I was gonna wear Harley and Joker cufflinks before. My wife was like, probably not a good representation for a marriage. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that is true.
We make that joke a lot. We're
do.
like, how are you guys going to sit there and be like, oh, I want a Joker to my Harley? And it's like, no, you don't.
You sure don't.
That's abuse.
That's abuse at its finest form.
Yes.
Like, what are you talking about? Guys, as we're winding down, I cannot thank you enough. This has been such a fantastic interview.
Such a good time.
And you guys were so great. We would love to have you back on at any time. We'll talk whatever.
Love to come back anytime. I mean, you
Say
guys
the word.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I have not felt this hour and a half at all.
Oh,
like,
yeah, this has been great.
Yeah, it's been awesome. If you guys listening on the podcast forum, follow them on Threads and Instagram at Wayward Raven Media. Find them on Twitter at Wayward Raven. Go to their Facebook page, Wayward Raven Media, and their website, www.waywardraven.com. For Mark, for Alex, I'm Damien.
And I'm Ashley.
And this has been Casually Die Hard.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.